This podcast is brought to you by Free Buddhist Audio, the Dharma for your life. Our work is funded entirely by donations from our generous listeners. If you would like to help us keep this free, make a contribution at freebuddhistaudio.com/donate. Thank you, and happy listening.
So, good morning, everyone. I'm giving 4 talks as part of our 2022 Croydon Buddhist Centre Meditation Challenge. And the idea of the meditation challenge is to help us look at our meditation practice, review our meditation practice, have a fresh take on it, and hopefully take our practice up to the next level, try and up our practice in some kind of way. So I didn't want in the meditation challenge to stipulate a certain practice that people had to do. I didn't want to sort of spend the 4 weeks teaching the Brahma Viharas or teaching this practice or that practice. What I felt it was about was helping people to actually look at their own practice, the practices that they do day to day, and review those and maybe see if we've got into certain habits, certain tendencies, or maybe see that there was some way we could take a fresh look at that practice. So I wanted a teaching or some input that would help us look at the practices we already do in a fresh kind of way. Just look at how we engage with those practices, and maybe bring in some qualities that could help deepen and intensify and sustain the way we do those practices in the long term. The teaching that I found and that we're going to base the 4 weeks on is the 4 powers, or the 4 Iddhipadas. So this is a teaching that comes from the Buddha. You'll find it, for example, in chapter 51 of the Samyutta Nikaya. And the 4 powers, or the 4 Iddhipadas, you could also translate as the 4 means of success, or the 4 bases of accomplishment, something like that. And they are firstly chanda, or desire, then vimamsa, which we're going to translate as discernment, so good judgment, and that part of meditation which is about investigating and learning and being curious about our mind. Then there's chitta, it's the third one, chitta translated usually as heart, mind. And lastly virya, energy in pursuit of the good, and we're also going to look at that in terms of qualities like persistence and resolve and keeping going. So how to sustain a practice over the long term, as it were. So these are the 4 powers, and we're going to have a week on each of them, exploring them as 4 necessary ingredients of a creative meditation practice. And you'll see as we go along as well, it'll make more sense as we go along, that they're saying something about the process of meditation. They're saying something about the alchemical process of transformation, of how meditation actually works. So today I'm going to say just a few words about chanda, desire, the first power, the first of the Iddhipadas. So why are we here? Why bother? Why bother to turn up on a Saturday morning? Why bother to get up in the morning and meditate? What are we doing all this for? Well, we're doing it presumably because we want something. Maybe deep down we yearn to be happier, we yearn to be more kind, or we want more sense of peace and harmony in our life, or we aspire to be more confident, more courageous, or we just want to understand ourselves in our life more. We feel a sense of confusion and long for clarity and understanding. So in other words, the reason we're here, the reason we meditate, the reason we practice, is because there's a desire, there's a longing, there's a heart wish for something. There's a heart wish, there's a yearning to grow and to be something different in some kind of way. And maybe when I first said that desire was the first power, the first of the Iddhipadas, that might have been a little bit surprising because Buddhism, as we know, says that craving and clinging and attachment are actually the cause of our suffering. That there's craving, which is, it limits us, it limits our consciousness, It kind of traps us in certain modes of being, certain modes of awareness, and causes unnecessary suffering. But yeah, there's a difference between that kind of craving and a healthy human desire to grow and to be more. Yeah. The problem with craving is we look to an object in an unrealistic way. We have unrealistic ideas about what it can provide for us, and so we kind of grasp onto it and cling onto it in a way which, becomes maybe quite selfish, or maybe just quite limiting and unhelpful and unhealthy in some kind of way. Yeah. So there is craving and clinging and attachment that Buddhism says is the cause of all our troubles. But there's also desire, chanda, that's healthy and human. The desire for food, for instance. And there's also desire that's skillful and positive in a spiritual sense. The desire to be happy, or the desire to want to help others, for example, or the desire to want to grow and make more of ourselves, more of our consciousness. So we need that kind of desire. We need to be in touch with and to nurture and hold that kind of desire. That's the juice, that's the spark, that's the fire or the fuel of our practice. That's why we're doing it. That's the thing that's going to fuel it and drive it and keep it going. I remember having a conversation some years back with a woman who had been meditating for a year or so. And we were on a retreat, and her meditation had really run dry, and she was a bit stuck and wondering what happened. So she asked to meet up and talk to me about her meditation. And she'd learnt to meditate. It had been in maybe a difficult time in her life. There were certain things she was really unsatisfied about in herself that she really wanted to change. And meditation had been really helpful. She'd really appreciated meditation. It really helped her change certain things. There was a sense of growing and developing and becoming more. And then, at a certain point, that just started to run out, started to run dry, and her meditation wasn't so satisfying anymore. And she was sort of surprised by that. What had happened? Why was that? Why had it changed in that way? And I guess I asked certain questions and sort of tried to sort of tease things out. And what it seemed to become clear to me that what had happened was when she'd started to meditate, she had a really clear desire. There was something in her life which was difficult, something that she really wanted to change. There was a real motivation for meditating. And actually it had worked. Actually she'd got what she'd wanted. She had changed, she had grown. Those issues weren't such a big problem for her anymore. So it was like she didn't really know why she was meditating anymore. There wasn't a kind of strong enough connection with some sort of underlying desire, some sort of underlying heart wish, some sort of underlying reason or motive for carrying on with the practice. So in a way, that's what I said to her. I said, well, why are you meditating? Maybe meditation's done what you wanted and you don't need to meditate anymore. And of course, I wasn't really advocating that. I wasn't really hoping that she would stop meditating, but I was sort of trying to make the point that it's a choice. It's something that we've got to want to do. If she was going to carry on meditating, in a way, what she needed to do was think about, well, why am I doing it? Why do I want to carry on meditating? Is there some sort of deeper vision, some sort of deeper aspiration, which I think that meditation will help me move towards, as it were. Yeah. So we need to know why we're doing it. We need to know that it's a choice, that we don't have to do it. We have to feel that this is something that we really want to do. So it's important to be in connection with that deeper desire, with that deeper heart wish, with that deeper yearning and aspiration. And of course, it's not always easy to be in touch with that. We can lose connection with it just through the busyness of life. So in a moment we're going to be doing a meditation or a reflection, trying to connect with that heart wish. So, in the usual way, doing body awareness, just arriving more fully in ourselves, and then becoming aware of our hearts and our bellies, maybe, the whole sort of area of the body that tends to be the seat of the emotions. Really trying to sort of allow our heart to be open and ask ourselves, what do we really wish for? What do we really want from life? What is our deepest, truest heart wish, as it were? Maybe it's a wish for love and connection. Maybe it's a yearning to sort of serve the world in some kind of way, a sense of wanting to live from compassion. Maybe it's a desire for beauty, for a sense of harmony and even oneness with the world. Maybe it's a deep desire for truth, for understanding, for clarity about what life is, clarity about our own minds, our own conditioning, and so on. Maybe it's a yearning for peacefulness. Maybe it's a deep, deep wish to be more confident, to be less fearful in life, to have a sense of, stability and groundedness and confidence and so on. Or maybe for you it's something else. But we need to know what that is in some way. We need to take that seriously and not be ashamed of it. Getting down to what is it that we're really longing for in our life? What really has resonance and heart and soul for us? Getting in touch with those deepest longings. And then there's a sort of skill or an art in knowing how to hold that desire. So there's unhelpful things we can do with it. So one unhelpful thing we can do is we can go into self-view around what we want, what we wish for, what we desire. So recently we taught a course on the 4 dhyanas at the Buddhist Centre. So we were teaching people the different dhyanas and doing meditations. And of course some people were experiencing dhyana and maybe some people weren't. Maybe, just circumstances and conditions of their life and their meditation at that time wasn't right. And in those situations, it's really easy to get into comparison in an unhelpful way. And you hear someone else talking about their meditation and it sounds better than yours or worse than yours. And you start, applying unhelpful labels, unhelpful comparisons. Oh, I can't meditate. I'm like this, but they're like this. So we start doing sort of self-views around our meditation, around our practice. Sort of because deep down there's something we really want, and maybe we're not getting it, or maybe we think we're not getting as much as other people. And so we go into these sort of unhelpful labels and comparisons which just hold us back. They just sort of create a kind of stuckness and rigidity which isn't helpful. So we have to try not to do that, and of course we will do it. It's very human. We just have to see when we're doing that and try and loosen that up and try and see that's just something we're doing. That's just a story that we're telling ourselves, a label that we're sort of sticking on ourselves, which is limiting and unhelpful. But even if we don't do that, this business of desire is still hard. It's still difficult. It's still even painful sometimes. If we long for something, if we really yearn to be more in our lives, if there's a real sort of heart wish to grow and to evolve and to be something more, then there's also going to be heartache, because it doesn't happen straight away. It's a long process. It's a process of gradual change and transformation. So where there's longing, where there's that heart wish, there'll also be a certain heartache. It just sort of comes with the territory. We'll be meditating and having that sense of longing for more peace, And it won't happen necessarily straight away. It won't happen every day. We'll go up and down in our meditation practice. We'll have easier times and more difficult times. So yeah, where there's that longing, there'll also be absolutely inherently difficulty, frustration, pain and heartache and so on. Or maybe sometimes there'll be remorse or regret. So perhaps I long to be more kind. There's certain situations where I know I get irritable and irritated with people, and I'm trying not to do it, but I do it again. I get irritated, and there's immediately a feeling of regret, a feeling of remorse, which is painful, which is even humiliating. Yeah. But it's really important to realise that pain, that heartache, isn't a sign that there's something wrong. Actually, it's a sign that there's something right. Underneath that, there's a desire. There's a desire which is very, very positive, very, very good. The reason we feel that frustration, the reason we feel that heartache or that remorse or regret is because underneath that, we really want to be different. We really want to be more. Yeah? And that's a really important thing, a beautiful thing, a precious thing, a necessary thing. Yeah? So yeah, there's something about holding our desire, being aware of the difficulties and the pain it will bring, and holding that with an understanding that that's not necessarily a sign of failure. It comes with the territory. It's part of the process. And that it's really important to stay in touch with our best desires. They're really good, they're really important, and they are the energy, the fire, the fuel that's going to keep our practice going over the long term. So we have to hold that desire skillfully, hold it well, not too tight and not too loose. So by holding it too tight, I mean getting willful, holding that desire in a way that we start berating ourselves or applying those sort of unhelpful labels and comparisons. Or I mean holding it too tight in the sense that we're wanting something, we're wanting to move somewhere in our meditation practice, and there's something that seems to be getting in the way. So we become aversive to that thing. Even very, very subtly this can happen. So maybe there's a ball of anxiety in my belly quite often when I meditate, and I'm trying to sort of soften that, I'm trying to kind of breathe into it, I'm trying to sort of be open to what that's about. But very, very subtly, because I don't want it to be there, I can get into aversion, just sort of very, very subtly breathing into it, but actually I'm just sort of trying to breathe it away. I'm trying to sort of push it away in a very subtle kind of way. Yeah? So we have to watch out for this, that our desire doesn't become tinged with a kind of aversion to aspects of ourselves, or to our experience, or to life. But it is quite subtle. So, I've had times in my life where I've got completely fed up with myself. There's some habit that I have or something that I keep doing. And eventually I get just exasperated with myself, and it's like I want to sort of shake myself, and there's a real sort of sense of fed upness. And actually I think that can be quite a positive thing. I think that can be done in a way which isn't aversive. It's just like, I really want to change and I'm just fed up with being like this all the time. Yeah. So it's quite subtle. We have to learn to discern the difference between when am I just subtly pushing something away, or when am I fed up with myself in a positive sense. It's just like I really want to change. I don't want to be like this anymore. And actually that's driven by a very sort of healthy desire. Yeah. So holding our desire, our chanda, not too tight. Yeah. Not willfully, not out of aversion, not holding it too tight. But at the same time, not holding it too loosely either. Not allowing it to become slack. Yeah. So ways we might do this are, well, firstly, just sort of forgetting our heart wish. It's very easy to lose touch with it in a busy life. There's so many things going on that we just sit down on our cushion in the morning and we just sort of do the practice that we did yesterday in the same old way that we did yesterday, and our head is sort of full of stuff, and we don't drop down into why we're doing it, into the deeper why we're there. We just sort of skate around on the surface and lose connection with that deeper heart wish. Yeah, we can just sort of forget it amidst all the kind of mundane details of life. And also maybe we can hold it too loosely in the sense of not taking it seriously enough. Yeah, because it will bring pain, because it will bring challenge, because it will bring heartache. There might be a temptation just to not take it seriously, just hold it at bay in a certain kind of way. So yes, it becomes loose, it becomes slack, and we lose touch with it in that kind of way. So holding the desire, holding the heart wish, not too tight, but also not too loosely. And then last point about how to hold this desire, we have to hold it in an authentic way. Yeah. So in any spiritual group, there'll be certain in practices, certain in teachings, certain in jargon, and that might be influence us in a helpful way, in a stimulating way, but not just sort of going along with things, but trying to be authentic to our own practice, our own heart wish. Also being authentic and true to our own energy, our own temperament. Yeah? So I'm using this language of desire and the fire of the spiritual life and all that kind of language. So that might suggest something quite passionate, quite fiery, quite kind of out there, as it were. And maybe that is your temperament. Maybe you're quite a passionate, fiery, out there kind of person. But maybe not. Yeah, maybe the way that desire works for you is much quieter, much more a slow burn. Yeah, actually can be equally passionate, but it's just not so obvious on the surface. Yeah, so we have to be true to our own energy, our own temperament, and not try just to be a particular way, because that seems to be the kind of in way of being. Yeah, so what's authentic for us? What really comes from that deepest heart wish, and not just something that's a bit more ego-based, to do with being in with people or to do with comparing oneself with people and so on. I think we can easily feel the difference. You can feel, when something comes from that deeper heart wish, and you can feel when actually it's a little bit more ego-based. Yeah. So we have to learn to discern those differences. Yeah. So that's it really. The importance of chanda, the importance of desire, of that connection with the yearning, with the heart wish. And in a way, the point of my talk is to bring that consciously into our practice, that we need to keep reminding ourselves of why we're here. We need to kind of reconnect and renew that connection with that deeper aspiration, with that deeper yearning and longing. Yeah. So maybe, at the start of every meditation practice, just having time to sort of go in and remember and reflect on why we're really doing this. Yeah. And for some people, rituals will help them do that, or chanting mantras and so on. That's what those practices are about in a way. It's connecting with that sense of faith, connecting with that sense of what we're placing the heart on, as it were. So maybe we want to do this at the start of our meditation practice, but also during our practice. Yeah, if we get lost, if we're meditating and we get lost and we lose the thread of the practice, a really helpful thing can just be just quickly to come back to, why am I here? Why am I doing this? Yeah. Am I really sitting here just to kind of think about this meeting that I've got to go to later? Or am I really here just sort of spacing out, thinking about sort of totally pointless things that aren't actually going to happen? Or why am I really here? Yeah. So if we get lost in our meditation practice, if we lose the thread, it can help just to kind of reconnect with our deeper purpose, our deeper aspiration, just reminding ourselves what we're really trying to do. Not in that kind of berating kind of way, but just kindly, gently, firmly reminding ourselves what we really want, why we're really here, as it were. And yes, not being afraid of that, not being ashamed of that, not being ashamed of what you yearn for. It's good, it's necessary, it's beautiful, it's really, really important. Yeah. So holding that desire well, and at the same time knowing that it will bring difficulty. It will sometimes bring heartache and frustration and pain. Yeah, and that's not necessarily a sign that you're doing anything wrong. The trick is to sort of remember and stay in touch with the aspiration, the positive desire, the positive wish that is underneath that, and to hold that well. And if we can hold that well, it will be a great resource for our practice.
We hope you enjoyed this week's podcast. Please help us keep this free. Make a contribution at freebuddhistaudio.com/donate. And thank you